Hi, guys. Welcome to Purple Angles. I'm Stephanie,
And I'm Natalie,
where we bring back healthy conversations.
and the beauty of divergent opinions. In today's podcast, we're going to be speaking about the holidays. Today is Christmas. And so, first of all, happy holidays to everyone. Whatever holiday you're celebrating, we hope you're spending it with your loved ones, with your family, with your friends, that you're well surrounded, and that you have your heart at peace. And that's something actually we're going to be speaking about today. Christmas, the holidays tend to be the most joyous time for a lot of people, but it's also a very, very difficult time. A lot of mental distress happens during the holidays, and that's a subject that we wanted to make sure we covered today.
Today, we're going to speak about Twitch. So, we've heard a news, it's very, very sad news that just happened. Unfortunately, if you are not aware, Twitch boss committed suicide. So we'll dive a bit more. I'll let you, Natalie, speak a bit more about who Twitch was, and we'll dive a bit more into the subject and about the holidays and the mental distress that could be associated with this season.
Yes, so for those that don't know about Twitch, he was he's a 40-year-old dancer, choreographer, influencer, very well known in the industry. He actually started being known, he was discovered on the show So You Think You Can Dance, which was probably like 10 years ago. That's when I first initially actually saw him. He was an excellent dancer, made it to the finale, didn't win, but it was a great exposure for him. And since then, he became a professional choreographer. Then he was on the Ellen show, where he was the DJ and also participating with the people that were coming on the show. Very active on social media, on TikTok, where we see him with his beautiful family, his wife and his 3 kids. He used to do a lot of different dances. So someone who had a beautiful light around him, who was always happy, seemed always happy. So it came as a shock, I think, for a lot of people. I know it was for me. I was a huge fan of him. So when I saw that, I was extremely surprised because I did not expect that from him. He didn't seem to be the type of person that was suffering from mental health issues or any kind of distress. So it is very, very sad. It's a very sad news, but I think it's also something that was a trigger for both Stephanie and I. And initially, we actually had a different subject we wanted to talk about today, but we decided to actually go back to the impact of the holidays on mental health and kind of dive deeper into that subject.
So it's again, it's a very sad story, and it brings back the fact that we never really know what's going on with someone, and the holidays, especially. I don't think a lot of people are aware. I've been working in hospital. I've worked in 17 hospitals and several pharmacies, and every time during the holidays, it is the highest admission of suicidal attempts, literally. So we're seeing that back and forth. I'm like, I remember being in shock because I used to work during the holidays because I was young, no children and everything. So I was always the one taking like the 25th and the 1st. And it shocked me, the amount of admission that was suicidal attempt and going back and coming back and the police and all that. And it's just, it made me so sad and made me realize how a lot of people suffer during that time, despite it's like we put so much glamour, the lights, the beauty, the songs, the music, but deep down, a lot of humans are suffering even more during that season with loneliness and other emotions that we're unaware of. And I think you have something similar as an experience with the work setting.
Yeah. Yes.
Please share.
Yeah, indeed. So I worked with, and I've shared that in one of their past episodes. I have worked with drug addicts for more than 8 years. So I was working with them every single day, giving them their dose of methadone or Suboxone. So I got to know them very, very well, and I got to know their stories very well. So I did speak of how they had a lot of traumas in their past, and how that kind of was a trigger or one of the causes of why they started taking different types of drugs and how they got into that kind of situation. But this week, when this happened, and when I saw what happened with Twitch, it honestly brought me back to that time of my life when I was working with with these people. And I remember vividly, it was actually the hardest time for them at like the holidays. Anything related to the holidays was always the most difficult season. We would see a lot of different relapses happen. So people that were, let's say, doing well, they were constant, they haven't touched, drugs for a very long time. The holidays would hit, and then we would expect, like we would see them relapsing, or we'd see them, the ones that, let's say, were doing okay, getting worse. It was a very difficult time. It is a very difficult time for that type of population as well. And it is directly linked to mental health. And that's something we definitely need to discuss. As you shared, we look at the bright side of the holidays and how beautiful it is and how everybody kind of focuses on that, and kind of bringing emphasis and bringing some type of taking the time to think about people that do not have the same circumstances as you, that don't have the same environment as you, that are not surrounded by people or the right people, is something to think about. So for me, it really brought me back to that time. And I know that a lot of people on the streets now are struggling. It's a very harsh season as well. So environment wise, like it's very cold, people are outside, but I think the loneliness is one of the main causes of that distress and that despair that happens around the holidays. And I would love for you to speak a little bit more about what loneliness means in that time.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's because they're aware, obviously, so they see everything happening, people shopping for gifts. And I think it brings back, I have shivers just saying it, maybe a memory that they don't have that. So it makes the pain even deeper, where they're like, it makes their loneliness even deeper. And loneliness is perceived as like being alone, but I think there's a huge misconception in understanding loneliness. And it doesn't mean that if someone is surrounded, posting pictures, and we saw it with Twitch, everyone's saying like, oh, he was super surrounded. It doesn't mean that he wasn't feeling lonely, that he wasn't lonely. So there's having a physical appearance of being surrounded versus really feeling lonely and not having the ability to ask for help or to share something that someone is struggling with. So that does give a feeling of loneliness, just not having that support system or that ability to share. So not it really doesn't have to do with anything related to the physical presence of people, but rather that connection that you could establish, that trust or that support that you have, knowing that someone cares for you or that is there for you. And I think you brought this in a previous podcast where a lot of people were, from the drug addicts and everything like that, were asking to be seen, and it was something that really was deep for them. Maybe you can share that again.
Yes, of course. I mean, as you said, loneliness is not about being alone. You can feel lonely within a crowd and being surrounded by lots of loving people too. You can still feel very, very lonely, and that's something that's internal to you. For the people that are on the streets, for people that are struggling with drug addiction, it was about feeling seen, and it was about the stigma around it and how people perceive them as, people as if they don't exist. People are so uncomfortable with that, and so uncomfortable with seeing them on the streets or seeing them in a negative way and not understanding where it could come from and the humanity behind that person. At the end of the day, this was a child that probably struggled a lot, and as I shared before, they've most of the time struggled with very deep trauma. And I know we use the word trauma a lot, and it's like a very kind of popular word right now, but there's different levels of trauma, and most of the time the ones I've seen in that population was severe deep trauma that kind of got them into that situation. So not forgetting that these people are actually little kids deep down inside. They're a soul that had to struggle through a lot, and they kind of got into that situation. Could they act differently about it? Can they help themselves? Can they do something different? The answer is always yes. It's easy to say, well, they could just go get a job. They could just go do this. But I don't think people understand how it's difficult to even get to that next step or third step or fourth step. Most of them don't have an address. It's hard to apply for a job when you don't have an address. It's hard to apply for a job if you don't have a bank account. it's hard to apply for a job if you don't have clothes to wear to go to that job, or cut your hair or look decent for that job. So we're talking about basics that I don't think people necessarily understand. I remember there was this one lady that she used to come to get her dose every single day. She was living on the streets. She was a prostitute, actually. She was well known in the neighborhood, and we're talking like very low, like a $5-10 actions, sexual activities to get money. So something very, like, it's painful to see and painful to know when you see that. And she was judged by everybody around her. I remember very well, like, people on the street would not even look at her, wouldn't talk to her, would like say that she looked like a prostitute, so would not give her the time of day. And at one point she was starting to have trouble with like her medication being covered. And then we realized like her governmental card was expired, but it had been expired for like I don't know how long. And we kept on telling her to go do it and do it and do it, and get it finalized, so that her meds could be covered. We kept on covering the medication for her in the meantime, because we don't want to cut her off. But she needed that support, but she didn't have anybody to do that. She didn't have a friend, she didn't have family around her. And it's a simple task, as easy as going to like your CLSC and filing those papers and putting them in, like as simple as that. And I think she needed like $20 for a picture or something. And that took months before she was able to, actually, she wasn't even able to do it. I had to go with her. I actually took off work. I took her by the hand. I went to the CLSC with her, filled the paper with her, paid her $20 bill, and then made sure it was done. But that doesn't happen every day. Not everybody's around and doing this. It's because I knew her story. I knew what was the background of it. But it's easy to judge. It's easy to say, oh, they could just do that. I don't want to give them money because they're going to go take drugs. Most probably. Yes, most probably. But they might need food too. They might need a hat, a scarf, something to go through the winter, that the hard winter we have in Quebec. So it's a lot deeper than what we see. And I think we do have to think about them as souls, and as a small child. Like, think of yourself as a child and imagine that person as a child. Nobody deserves to be in that situation. Nobody chose to be in that situation. And it's not as easy as it looks. So I think that our goal today, and I know my goal today, is to kind of bring awareness to that. Bring awareness to, I'm speaking a lot about people that are on the streets and people that struggle with drug addictions. And I'm happy that you're also sharing the perspective of loneliness, even within a beautiful family, and within, people that live with big means, and kind of being aware that, yes, you have that population that is kind of, it's easy to see that they're struggling. And yes, they do require attention, love, compassion, and grace. And I think that that's something I want to make sure we bring today to the table. But I would love to hear your input when it comes to the awareness of Monsieur, Madame, tout le monde, as we say in French. So the average person.
But just to continue on like the people on the streets, I would invite, I did this many times. Like, I literally go sit with them. Mm-hmm. and have a conversation. And sometimes they're like, why are you talking to me? No one talks to me. No one, like, I'm not supposed to be seen, kind of like they kind of, it's very difficult to hear this, because you're like, they actually embraced what, in a negative way, what people were portraying of them, and they took that as an identity, and they're like, that's me. So it's like, it was super sad. I'm like, no, you're a human. Like, how can I help? If I give you money, are you gonna buy drugs, or are you gonna, so like literally treating them like humans. Because we tend to treat them like other people, but they're just people that had different challenges in different lives. So I actually invite people that are listening, if ever you see someone, just say hi, or have a conversation, or face something that you may feel uncomfortable because you're not used to seeing these people, or it's kind of scary, because that's what's causing the stigma. It's because we're like, we don't really know, we don't understand. But you can't understand if you don't face it and sit down with them and have a conversation, and actually realize on your own that they're humans just like everyone else. And the same goes to continue with people that are surrounded, and that they put a smile on their face, but deep down it's dark and it's black, and they just don't want to be there. it's also to ask and not to take everything for cash, as we say, or just not take what someone tells you they're doing okay and turn the page and start talking about you. Instead, try to listen a bit more to how they're saying it. Invite people that are sometimes saying, oh, I'm okay, I'm going to stay alone. Maybe that they need a little bit more push. Because don't take me wrong, like I'm that type where I'm like, no, I'm okay. I don't have that super ability to ask for help, where I had to learn how to ask. So I can understand how someone, especially men, don't ask for help, because that's how they feel that it's challenging already there. So for me, what worked is people almost like, I had to feel comfortable. I had to, so I invite people whenever you want to tell, when someone tells you, oh, they refused, I invited them to come, but they said that they're okay. Try to do a little bit more, because there's a challenge for them to accept. So if you push a little bit more in a nice way and say, oh, I did this for you, you have to come, and just invite them, because the human connection has a bigger impact that you can ever think, just by inviting that person and making them feel there without letting them be alone during that period, will have a bigger impact than just like saying, oh, I called them and I did my step. Just push a little more. If that could be the message that I give, coming from someone that doesn't necessarily ask for help all the time, but I learned, and that's why I have partners now and everything. So I think that should be something that I want to leave people with. Try to gather people, try to let go of the ego, of all the emotions. It's a time maybe to just restart and open up to have conversations and connections. And yeah.
One thing I would like to add to that, I think actually two things I would like to add. The first one is, we're talking about people that look strong, that look happy, that look, on their social media pages, on Instagram, and even around you, that seem to be doing great and seem to be, they're the life of the party. And it's not always obvious when someone is struggling with mental health. What I would suggest, and that's kind of my perspective on this, is sometimes you might ask someone, hey, how are you doing? I think that's the first thing you can do. Sit down and be like, but like actually mean it when you say, how are you? Like, how are you doing? Like, really. Some people will open up if they feel comfortable with you, if they feel safe with you, they will open up. Some people won't. And a lot of people won't. And especially a lot of the people that are showing that strong, that strong kind of appearance, showing that they've, got everything under control. Most people will be like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm good. And it's okay. I think what we need to remember is, what's the most important is just be kind. Be kind to everyone around you. Show compassion, show love. So you have your family, your friends, your people around you, hug them, show them love, tell them why you care about them, express that affection to these people, because you don't know what they're struggling with inside, and they might never tell you, and they might never share it. And I think it's important that the one thing we could do that will have a positive impact is be kind and show affection and be there and be present. So I like the fact that you say, like, insist on the, the people that are going to be like, oh, no, I'm okay. Yes, especially people that are like more alone, let's say, that are like spending the holidays alone. But when you are surrounded by everybody that you love and your friends and everybody, take the time to show them that love. Take the time to be kind. And that's the one thing that they will take, even if they won't share necessarily what's going on. And the other thing I think I want to leave us, I want to kind of speak about before we close this podcast today, is the importance of giving back. So we're talking about, within our family, within our friends, we're talking, inviting people over, taking the time to do that, to be kind. I do have I'm not going to say a soft spot, but I do have something inside of me that really, when it comes to people that are on the street and people that are struggling with drug addiction, like I've kind of lived with them for a very long, like for a good 8 years, like day in, day out. So I do have, I'm very sensitive to that subject. And I think the one thing that could be very helpful in this specific season is to give back to these people, whether it's by going out on the streets and giving, you can organize little, Ziploc bags, you can put, some fruits in it, some disinfectant, alcohol swabs, or things that people can use on the street that might be helpful for them. You can go and help out and give out breakfast at different, shelters that are giving that around well, not around the holidays, but also like on a regular basis. That's another thing that could be done. Walking around the city and actually giving these people some time and some attention, getting them that coffee. You might not want to give them money because they're gonna get, might get drugs with it, which will most probably happen. But if you get them a coffee, or if you get them a donut, or if you get them a bagel, they'll take it. They will take it. There's so many ways to giving back, and I know I've shared that with you, Steph, and I know we're both going to be involved in this, but I am putting it out there because I also want to be accountable for this. I will be doing that myself this holiday. It was a reminder for me this week of everything that happened. Was like a big trigger when it comes to mental distress during the holidays, and it was kind of like a wake-up call of not to forget to give back. We're going to find different ways to do that together, and I think that we might share it, we might not. That's not the goal. It's just to kind of bring awareness to that, and I think the goal is to go out there, show compassion, show love, be kind. Just be kind. That's who we are as humans, and the holidays are actually about that. It's about being kind to everyone around you.
About being connected rather than the big presence and the materialistic world, just reconnecting with your soul. Yeah. So thank you so much for listening, everyone. Wishing you happy holidays and stay warm. See you at the next podcast.